Yeah, so how is the boat riding? Over?
Once I kind of got it balanced out enough, I had to, reduce the spatial down because I had about a half a main of it. It was a little overpowering, so well, just once we got it balanced out, got it lashed over that run.
Yeah, well, that's good. Good to hear. I try to encourage people to do this. It's one thing modern day yachties do not want to do, and that's stop the boat. And I've always been a believer in doing that. Tricia hates it. She absolutely hates it. But the boat does just sit there, and it's a lot better than the pounding. So, okay, I'm going to talk about running up to the islands in my discussion. So if you want to just stand by for that, that'll include you as well. And yeah, it's like all I can say is it's looking good to get moving pretty soon. So stand by for that. Over.
Roger that, David. And good morning, Pele. I sent you all an email just moments ago. Also, just wanted to let you know that we've got about 50% cloud cover here. We're staying at around 26.
What was left?
26 southeast. Sustained.
Ah, good. Okay, thanks for that wind report. Okay, good. Here's the boss.
I'm just trying to set up my phone as soon as my iPad is out of action. All right. Good morning to everybody. This is it's ZMH286, Patricia and David. And today again, we're starting with almost clear skies. So maybe they'll continue to be clear, not like yesterday when it clouded over. We've got a report from Mana about very high cirrus. That's the very thin cloud at the top, you guys. Cirrus. Ice, says David. That's exactly what it is. And then that altostratus, altocumulus probably by the sound of the puffiness, altoq further down, the nice puffy clouds. That's what you're getting there. But we've got no stratus or altoq at the moment, so that's rather good. Might get a decent day out of it. There's a lot of people in Minerva, we know, and as I mentioned, David thinks he might have some light at the end of the tunnel for you, so that's going to be good. All right, let's see. We've got a few boats that are still out there. Just been talking to North Star, and they had 50% cloud cover. They're not all that far from Minerva, actually. Sort of just holding the boat before it clears up a bit to get further north to Savu. 50% cloud cover, 26 knots from the southeast. Is there any other boat ready at the moment? Usually they're a little bit slow to come to the radio, but we've got Kaya and Echo. Anybody else wanting to give a position and a report?
They're waiting for one.
No, nothing heard there. All right. I'm having trouble here this morning with this problem that I had here. Didn't even notice it until I started. Let's go for a little bit of news, and such as it is, on this Friday. For New Zealanders, actually, we've got a bit of news. A new political party has been formed, as if we needed another one. But it's been formed by Brian Tamaki and his wife Hannah. They're leaders of the Destiny Church here in Auckland, and they've decided that the place needs another. It's not a Christian party. It's actually a party for the silent majority. I guess that's us. And they are going to concentrate on family values. So I think they're going to sort of be aligned. I think they think that the National Party needs a bit of help from people who are not happy with the National Party at the moment. That's our opposition. And they need a bit of help. So they are likely to be not part of, but supportive of the National Party. Anyway, another flipping political party. There was an interesting article in the paper about what temperature is the appropriate temperature in an office. And evidently men, when you get around your 40s, have a higher metabolic rate than women. And therefore, they need a temperature that's much lower than what women like. And in fact, in California, have to be California, wouldn't it? They have 16 degrees in various offices. This is in the summertime, of course. When it's wintertime, they go to the other extreme.
That's too cold.
But that is too cold for women who need something closer to 20 to 22.
Too cold for
So
me too.
it would be too cold for David. Yeah, he likes it a bit warmer. And in fact, I thought that 16 degrees was the minimum overnight temperature for people to, have a decent sleep. But anyway, it's quite different in Europe. In Germany, for example, the difference is 21 for men and 24 for women. I know when I worked in America, we used to keep the lab at 24 because that's where all the tests were done. I think that was 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So things have obviously moved a little bit there. I haven't talked about Theresa May for a while. This whole Brexit thing has really given to be a big yawn. I don't know why they just don't move out and be done with it. But it looks like Theresa May may be on her last legs. It looks like this week she will probably be forced out of office. She's not come up with an acceptable Brexit proposal. I don't see how you could to keep everybody happy. And they all seem to want her gone. And I suspect that deep down she is getting fed up with it all too. I know I would be. And here's something, I don't know why the UN, well, it's amazing the things that they get involved in, but the UN has, this is the General Assembly, has voted overwhelmingly to demand Britain end its colonial administration of the Chagos Islands. And these include the US airbase at Diego Garcia.
Good luck.
They want them returned to Mauritius within 6 months.
Right.
Now, these are, for those who are geographically impaired, these are in the Indian Ocean, and for some reason the Chagos Islands were split off from Mauritius in 1965. I imagine that being during the sort of the Cold War, they were in a very strategic position and couldn't afford them to be left to people that might offer them to the highest bidder. But anyway, that's what the UN has decided. And the other thing that the UN have busied themselves in is they've decided that digital voices such as Alexa and Siri perpetuate gender stereotypes, and they therefore want them to be non-female or non-male, just a sort of a robot type thing, because evidently when people swear at Siri, for example, it's usually very abusive. And I know I've been guilty of that when something comes up, that nobody can hear, but boy, they come up with some stupid things and you tell them so. Well, evidently that means if it's a female that you get used to swearing and cursing and making sexual remarks and so on and so forth at a female. And so the UN has decided that they need to be gender neutral. I am so pleased that all the money that we're sending into the UN is going into something valuable.
Tell you what, it's really time to stop that flow of nonsense.
Okay, all right. You just worry about the weather.
Yeah.
Japan have been another one. They the firm Panasonic is the latest to cut ties with Huawei, and the tech Cold War between the US and China really seems to be heating up quite a bit. It's getting quite serious, as is the whole business with Iran. And it seems that in Iran there is a bit of conflict between the mullahs and the leaders. The mullah, the chief mullah, can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's been a little bit concerned about what's happening within his country with the talks that are going on, and wants to have a much harder line. Anyway, we'll talk about that one next week. What's happening in the United States is probably more to do with the weather. 171 tornadoes across the Midwest, and one hit quite badly Jefferson City in Missouri overnight. Tremendous damage there. Debris 13,000 feet into the air. It's very, very widespread, all this weather there. Goes from Columbus, Ohio, right through to Philadelphia, down in Texas, up to Kansas City. It's Oh, and then there's all the flooding along the Mississippi. So it's just a big mess of weather, along with the little bit that we have here in our own neck of the woods.
As if it's never happened before.
As if it's never happened before, yes. Oh, they didn't even talk about global warming. Goodness gracious me.
I hope not.
Washington, they had a big meeting there. Nancy Pelosi went to the White House, but they were going to, I mentioned earlier in the week that they were going to talk about the infrastructure spending need. This is in the billions to try and improve roads and bridges, but it didn't get off to a very good start and ended in a stomping, yelling match, and she walked out.
Good.
Because I think the Democrats want to tie it with Mr. Trump opening up his tax returns, etc. What that's got to do with running the country, I don't know. But anyway, it all left in, well, I wouldn't say in tears, but they all stomped out and had a hissy fit. So there you have it. That's about the news. Let's try and find our boats on passage. Is there any sign of Kaya or Echo? Please call. Okay, we've got Kaya. Go ahead and give me your position, over. Well, I'm not getting you hardly at all. You just faded into nothing. Please give your position as loud as you can again. Over.
201 South,
Yep.
179,
Okay, we have you at 2301 and 17921 East. And what are your conditions? Over. Okay, you faded again on me. I think you've got 25 knots of southeast, and I think it was 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. Over. Okay, we've got Roger for them, and Kaya are heading towards Tanner. All well on board? Over. That's excellent. All right, thank you for that. Actually making reasonable progress there. Echo, you on frequency. Bill, over.
Yes, good morning, Mr. President. Our position is 2642 South, 1575 East, east of about a metre. We have floor going through, please good luck for some reason, but we're all going to go on board and we have 290 miles to go to Thunderbird. Also, us to get that, we've got to figure calling for you later.
Okay, could you pick him up, please? And you've made very good progress, 290 miles to Bundaberg. Could you pick him up, please? Over.
Yes, figure, this is Echo, or...
He left last night. He left last night, true.
Oh, I should have.
Is there anything for Echo? His weather here? Because this is the last you won't visit. What about arrival? Well, he didn't say, but what's his arrival weather? 290 to go, he'll come in.
Yeah, not sure this is, but I've quite before,
Roger, he'll be way too close to us. He left last night. All right, well, happy landfall for you guys. That was a pretty decent trip, over.
Yeah, it's been nice. A couple of days was really good for the mobile, and I believe we've got another day ahead of it required as well. But May, we already used our motor, so that was a good luck better.
Yeah, I suppose you don't want to end up there on the weekend. Are they still having their atrocious weekend prices, over?
Yeah, I think they sort of go around a little bit, but we're lucky there till probably Monday morning early anyway, so that will get over that problem and do one over.
Yeah, exactly. Good timing. All right, thank you for that. Have a good sales on the weekend. What about anybody else? Oh, actually, whilst you've got it, oh no, we'll need someone further away. Andrew, I know you're on the air there. Could you give a call to Lucy, please? Over.
Yeah, that's it. Lucy, I can't easily afford to go already. Yeah, I can't use Lucy. I hope you have free help me over. And that's a very good copy.
Yeah, I have got him. I thought it might be in my script by now. Good morning, Mike. Go ahead.
Good morning, Richard. Yeah, we were at 3934 minutes south. 159.33
Yeah, I just missed your course and speed. Over.
I was at 7.5 at 070.
70. Okay. Oh, you go well, don't you? All right. We have Lucy 3934 south, 15923 east with a 12 knot north-northwest heading towards Opua at 7.5 knots. So you two are really going well. All right. So you'll be there in time to head off with the rather large mob that's assembling there at the moment. Over. Oh, okay. All right. So you won't have to worry about it. Okay. Anything?
What's his ETA?
Yeah. What is your ETA, Mike? Over.
We can see if the night or Wednesday, thinking on the weather from here on in.
Yeah. Okay. David was just looking.
Frontal bend.
Yeah, there is a bit of a frontal band. You've probably seen it on whatever you're getting. But we'll be talking to you on Monday morning anyway. Over.
Well, thank you very much. You're yes.
All right, and we are getting we're getting past it. I just wanted to let you know, folks, before I finish here, that because everything is changing so much, David will be sending out an email tomorrow. And when we do this, we send it to our very nice supporters. And some of those are at Minerva. We've got who we got at Minerva. We've got Lupan and Amazing Grace. And we'll also send out an email to CruiserSat.net, so those folk that are on there will get it. So he will update what he's talking about today later tomorrow. And those folk, we do have to thank our folk that support us. It's really, really nice. And so every now and again you get a benefit from that. And we'll see what it's like, as David will probably be telling you, and you will probably know everything's been a bit of a kerfuffle with the weather in terms of agreements, trying to get agreements anyway. So
Kerfuffle, I like that.
kerfuffle, yeah, sounds good, doesn't it? Sort of sounds confused. Anyway, we'll do that later tomorrow. And anyway, here he is now for what it is looking like today.
And for the next few days. So good morning. Yeah, I've got a bit to cover here. So first we're going to look at the synoptic picture. We find a split high over New Zealand now, about 1029 millibar. Now there's two centers. One of the centers is to the west of Cook Strait, and just north of that is a very small depression. Now, apart from that, the majority of the Southwest Pacific is under ridge conditions, as we've been talking about, but our pesky little tropical low is just to the southwest of Viti Levu. It's just hanging in there, providing cyclonic flow to the area. Two troughs now extend from this particular low. One pushes west toward Anisham and Newcastle. The other pushes east over Tonga. Now, by lunch Saturday, our trough moves west-southwest to near Tanna. Anisham and New Caledonia as well, I believe. That is one of the troughs that are coming from this low. So there will be a bit of showers and whatnot in that area. Now, the highs over New Zealand consolidate, the two highs, one on the west side, one on the east side. So they consolidate, and the center moves to the east of East Cape. We'll call it about a 1029, 1030 central pressure. Now, by lunch on Sunday, the high moves out to 170 west. And the good news is the isobars look like they're starting to spread out over the cruising routes. Now, when isobars spread out, obviously the pressure differentials become less, and of course the winds start to come down. I'm sure everybody will be welcoming that, although we still have an area of high winds. Okay, while we've had 5-meter swells around the Minerva area, the wave models, such as WW3, they're indicating about 3 meters today, coming from the east up in that Minerva area. By Sunday, it should drop even more, maybe 2.5, 3. And Monday, even more, 1.5 to 2 meters near Fiji and Tonga. This is very welcome news. Not only have we had damaging swells for the islands, but it's made it pretty uncomfortable out in the ocean as well. Now, it was no fun in parts of Tonga yesterday with northeast winds 20 to 25 and at times 30 to 35. Now, we did get one boat report that had no wind, so they must have been in a very, very protected area. But there were 4 to 6 meter seas out in the open water there in Tonga, as was reported. Fiji had 4.5 meter seas out in the open waters. And yeah, well, our little tropical depression has certainly made itself known for sure. Now, I'll get to the forecasts for the weekend in just a minute, but over to Minerva. Well, conditions were pretty sporty yesterday as well at Minerva. And we've just finished talking with North Star. They're 100 or so miles from the reef, hove to at the moment. They had reported 5 meter seas. Now, I put out a little note yesterday on set regarding radar satellites, and I am using this radar satellite when I can. It provides very, very narrow passes, unfortunately, but it did report 15-foot seas just to the west of North Star, and the seas would have been certainly higher to the east of that particular satellite pass. This is the Jason 1 satellite, by the way. Now, I expect winds to be in the 20-knot range today, and most of the reports that we've gotten indicate that. People are reporting about 25 knots. Anyway, should be lower than yesterday, but still easterly quadrant. Sunday, it should come down more, 15 to 20, in the band between 20 south and 25 south. But near Fiji, as an example, pretty light air. And I'd like to say light and variable, but probably it will have a predominant direction. I'll get to that again in a second. Now, the same on Monday, picks up a little bit on Tuesday, and Wednesday winds back just a wee bit up there, east-northeast in the 15-knot range. Okay, well, when do we leave Minerva? That's what you want to know.
I want to.
And, of course, we don't give advice or any of that sort of thing. Yeah, I know, Trish, but I have to say that. Well, depending upon how your yacht sails and what you're willing to experience, you may consider Sunday. The boss over here says, let's go Saturday. Well, she says that now, but she always carries a
5, 6 bags.
5 or 6 seasick bags with her. But anyway, I think Sunday looks like a good possibility. Getting to Tonga Tapu before the winds start to turn northeast. So it's only a 2-day trip, maybe 2 plus. So it looks reasonable to me. Now, a front late Wednesday, I would say, could make things a little bit unpleasant. And virtually the same thing for the Fiji-bound yachts. I don't know how many in Minerva are going to Fiji. I know there's a few. I think the bulk are going to Tonga. And yes, that's a little bit longer voyage, but the same sort of thing applies. Those bobbing around near 25 south, like North Star, can start to ease toward the destination slowly, maybe later today into tomorrow. And as the seas come down, you can just keep adding sail as conditions dictate. Now, GFS, EC, and UK Met, these three models, are in better agreement for this period of time, I'm happy to say. Now, by Sunday, our high, as I indicated, moves east. So Fiji to Minerva are near the western edge of the ridge. And so the isobars are such that the winds west of the date line are going to start to go northeast. And with that, convective activity. So in my way of thinking, Saturday through Wednesday, maybe we could call that the Minerva window, with Sunday being slightly better to leave, in my opinion. You certainly can go anytime you want, but that's how I look at it. By Tuesday, we should see two highs and associated ridges. Now, the ridges meet at the longitude of New Zealand. So we have two ridges, one on the east, one on the west, one with winds from a northerly quadrant, other winds from a southerly quadrant. When they hit one another, different densities, they create a trough, and that's what's going to happen. And that trough is going to move more or less toward Vanuatu, Newcastle, in that direction, more or less. But by midnight on Wednesday, I think the trough may reach Fiji. I'm not sure about that, but in that time frame. Now, the departing high has a central pressure of 1035. This is very, very strong, this high. So remember my warning of convective activity usually found on the left shoulder of strong highs. And I believe that is what we're going to see. Now, the next front and major depression that's going to descend on New Zealand looks like Friday, about 31 May. So, okay, fingers crossed on the Minerva window. So now we'll look at the weekend winds throughout the various island groups. Now, starting with Tonga's Met Service. They have 4 warnings out this morning. One is a gale warning for Tonga Tapu, not to the north, but in there in the south. Northeast winds 20 to 25, rising 30, 35. And very rough seas 4 to 6 meters. And heavy rain in thunderstorms. Note the thunderstorms. Now, a strong wind warning remains in force for Vavau and the Hapais. And with that, a heavy damaging swell warning continues for Vavau, the Hapais, and Tonga Tapu. And finally, inshore warnings are out for small craft. Now, Vavau and the Hapais can expect 15 to 20, rising to 25 at times today. Saturday, I'd say easterlies about 10 to 15, really comes down. And for the rest of the group, light and variable winds to about 10 knots. And the seas down 3 meters, maybe getting up to 5 in places. Not a consistent swell. Now, Sunday, I see southeast back up around 20 knots. But the winds start northeast on Wednesday, from what I can see. And Thursday, north to northeast. Very light, maybe in the 10 knot range. Hold on a minute. Okay, sorry. I had to have a sip of my tea before I lose my voice. Fiji Met continues with the heavy swell warning there as well, especially for southwest Viti Levu, the Mamanukas, Kindavu Passage, and the southern Koro Sea, and the southern Lao. And they also have a strong wind warning in force for all Fiji waters. So expecting south to southeast winds 20 to 25, again with that damaging swell to 4.5 meters. Now the rest of Fiji could expect southeast 20 to 25. The outlook for Saturday, the southerly winds 15 to 20. The sea and swell start to come down at that point. And a quick peek to Wednesday shows light southeasterlies about 10 to 15. So you see what I'm talking about, how we get into the early part of next week, things start to come down and looking decent for that window. Briefly to Vanuatu, satellite imagery shows I would say a fair amount of cloud for the upper half of the group. We talked about that trough. Some of these clouds are extending to the south. So the forecast is brief showers for Luganville, Port Vila, and the Lenikai area to the south. Winds are not too bad. Southerly quadrant 10 to 15. Saturday, light and variable for the north half. East-southeast 10 or so for the southern half. And on Sunday, light and variable. But if we needed a direction, we'll call it east to east-southeast in the main. And finally, New Caledonia looks fairly decent on imagery. There's a chance of showers there. Winds southeast 12 to 15. Loyalties in the 15 knot range. Looks like heavier showers for the loyalties. And on Saturday, expect easterlies around 10 knots, so with showers. And on Sunday, partly cloudy, east-southeast 10 to 15. So that sums up the weather. Folks, I wasn't going to bring this up, but I think it does relate to weather, so I'm going to do it anyway. We received a number of emails. This is regarding Minerva Reef and the boats that are in Minerva. So we got a number of emails regarding a catamaran skipper who endangered quite a number of anchored yachts by actually not having a clue as to how to anchor in 25 to 30 knots of wind in proximity to other yachts who certainly have out extra chain due to the strong winds. Now, the skipper really made a fool of himself and hopefully learned a bit from this experience. It's always been Chameleon's pet peeve to have yachts drop close, even in calm conditions, let alone rough and windy conditions. And we've seen firsthand more than once what happens when anchors tangle. In a place like Minerva Reef, you could be on that reef in a heartbeat with those winds. So enough said about that. Hopefully there's been some lessons learned on that. But regarding this, it gives me a chance to again discuss anchoring and thunderstorms, which you're certainly going to have this season up in the islands. It's not uncommon to get 180-degree wind shifts during these storms. You certainly are going to get some sort of a wind shift when you have a thunderstorm pass overhead. And the reason for this is the upper level winds are racing to the surface, and they're all coming at different levels in different directions. And it's the direction that they came from that are going to reflect on the surface. And that's the cause for the shift. And boy, I've seen some interesting events occur, particularly people that like to anchor very close to shore. They get quite a surprise when they can step out onto dry land. Okay, I'm done. Any questions that you have, come now. Now, as Patricia said, because of this supposed window that I'm discussing here, we will come on through an email tomorrow sometime afternoon and take a look further as to how things are developing. Now that the models have more or less come in agreement, maybe they'll continue to do so, and we'll be able to give you something that you can have some confidence in, I hope. So with that, I'm done. I'll pass it over to the boss to field any questions, and look for that note tomorrow.
Yeah, I just got an interesting email from Lupan there. The Tongan Navy arrived yesterday in North Minerva, collected crayfish and left this morning. They must be having a hui on this weekend or something. All right, I take it they didn't bother visiting any of the boats, who I'm sure will be well spread out given the conditions. I looked up North Minerva. The diameter is 5.6 nautical miles. That's 3.5 ordinary miles. It's a lot of space there, a lot of space. So there is no need to be close to each other, and particularly when there's boats of various shapes and sizes, they all swing a little differently. So as David mentioned, you really need to be well spaced. Okay, is there anybody with any specific question or comment? Evidently we're coming in well to all over the place. Got streaming from Ruakaka. That will bring back memories, David.
Yeah.
We had a lovely time there. The folk are so polite and lovely. But it's we're going through good on streaming as well as the radio there. So thank you very much for that, Victoria. I was just looking at the Met service because Gone with the Wind says it's overcast in Whangarei. It's just a little bit. I think it will burn off because it's. I had a look at the satellite picture. It doesn't seem to be much there, and it's sunny in Sabu. Amazing. Thank you, John. All right. Is there any question for David? Please call. Any relay from anybody? Nothing heard there. And Pilgrim, just if you're listening, just information for you. You normally have a comment on it, but I noticed there was nothing in the comment and no weather. There was very unusual for you. It just had your position. So something might have screwed up there. All right. Doesn't sound as if there's anybody there, so we're going to have a very nice weekend of weather by the look of it here, and we will be back again on Monday morning. Cheers, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, and the frequency's all yours. Oh, there's a couple there. Stand by. Anna Harter, you were in there first. David, go ahead.
I was trying to get hold of you earlier, and there was a when you
Sorry, just can't understand what you were saying. Go ahead again.
I was trying to get hold of you, but you're
Oh, I did get Trigger. Is that who you're talking to? Yes, we got a relay from him. He left yesterday, so he's still quite close. Over.
Very good. Would you like me to do a relay for him?
Yeah, give me his position would be good. Over.
Trigger relay for Gulf Harbour. You copy out over. Just give me the longitude again. 3348 174. What was it? 190. Did you copy that?
I got 3348 and 17 and missed the rest.
17419.
Thank you. Got that. Yep. He's he's a 60-foot category, so he's going to be moving rather more rapidly than what we're used to. Yeah. Thanks for that, David. And just while I've got you, what will your intentions be? Over. Yeah, roger that. So you'll just hang fire there till everything's finished. All right. Well, it sounds like we'll talk to you again on Monday. Okay, there was somebody in behind Anna Harter. Who was that? G'day, Ron. And I know what you're like now because I saw a picture of you with the group by the big buoy in South Minerva. Yeah, I just thought you'd be interested in case the family are looking at your comments because there weren't any comments there. Over.
Yeah, most of that, I was very hard to put that together to start to transmit the song, and the bit of an error there, so I'm not included in that picture by that big boy.
Oh, well, I've got your son and daughter-in-law, and or daughter and son-in-law, and thought it was you on the left. Oh, okay. I'll have to go back to Margie on that one. Over.
Yeah, right to that, no, that I believe would be the Kapiri crew.
Ah, okay, wrong bill. All right, thank you for that. All right, but it sounds like you've got a good day up there today. Over. Yeah, I bet it is. So, yeah, ours hasn't gone above 20 for the last few days, but it's been flat calm. It's been sort of hard to imagine the weather out only as far as Minerva because it's just been flat calm here, not Murla, not a leaf moving. It's really peculiar. All right. And for those that are still listening, the reports have come in from Sperari. They're at, and I presume Tamariki as well is very close by. They're at 40 south and 17140 east. So probably the last day at sea today. So they're homing in on Picton.
What is the cloud cover at Minerva now? Because I'm seeing
The cloud cover at Minerva. We've had quite a few reports from Minerva. Let's have a look here. I'll just have to go back. Sorry about this, folks. Stand by.
that's all right. You got it. That's all right.
Yeah.
Don't worry. There's a good cloud from that trough this year.
The stupid thing has decided to redo itself,
No,
as you
forget
can imagine.
No, forget
Clouds 100% at Minerva.
it. Yes.
Okay. All right, folks. We're turning off streaming now, and we'll be back again Monday.